Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Dungeon Masters Dojo podcast. This is a show for game masters and players alike. We hope to bring you tips and tricks to elevate your game and develop the art of dungeon mastery. I'm your host, Louis Aponte, and these are your dungeon masters, Scott Labby and Bill Robitaille. Let's enter the dojo and see what they have in store for us today. Good afternoon, Bill.
Good afternoon, Lou.
Scott, you're looking mighty radiant.
Thank you.
Well, it's warm out. He's sweating, so he has a glisten on his forehead.
And that was me being nice for the week.
That's it. You heard it here first, folks.
But I do like the Hawaiian shirt.
Thanks.
It brings out the radiance in your eyes.
Oh, why, thank you, Lou. That's very flattering.
Beware, Scott. Something's afoot.
Yes. And it is the Radiant Citadel, I think. This is where the radiancy that Lou has been tossing around.
He caught on.
Yeah. It's a new book, and as usual, we're behind everybody else in our look at it, but
We're looking at it.
that's okay. We don't have to sprint out there and give you our rushed opinion on it. It's a nice looking book, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. I always buy these. I never ever use them. Ever.
We talked about this last week.
We talked about this multiple weeks.
You're a dealer, an addict, and you pushed them on Bill.
I'm not a dealer. Wizards of the Coast is a dealer, but yes,
He's a facilitator.
There you go. So you now got Bill into this addiction with your addiction.
No, I didn't.
Did you buy him one?
Yeah.
Delivered to my doorstep.
And does he have to pay you back?
Yeah.
Hence, dealer.
No, that's it's a reimbursement for me purchasing it from the dealer, which is Wizards of the Coast. I didn't get Bill into anything. Bill's been buying books like 10 years before I started reading.
I was buying books when it was scribbled on a piece of slate with chalk.
When they were done on typewriters and stuff. This is nothing new. It's not like, hey, Bill, all of a sudden there's D&D books, FYI. No.
I have books that I printed out on a dot matrix printer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. From the old interwebs back in the at AOL.com email days.
We won't talk about those days.
Or what was the other one?
Prodigy, CompuServe,
Juno,
yeah.
Juno was a free one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So
it worked.
The Radiant Citadel.
The Radiant Citadel.
We get a peek at the Radiant Citadel and some of the noteworthy sites in the beginning of the book. It sounds almost like the perfect society. Nobody wants for anything. Everybody's nice to each other. Everybody kind of takes care of everyone else.
Beware utopia.
Yeah, it's almost utopian. Which, on the surface, sounds fucking boring, but there's a lot you can do with a utopian society, because when things look perfect, it's usually because there's a lot of, kind of like makeup on around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Underneath the surface, there's some stuff going on that is the fodder for good adventures, even homebrew stuff. So I feel like you could have a lot of fun with this.
Well, yeah, because what is the gloss of the utopia hiding?
Yeah, and how is it enforced?
And who's hiding it? Why are they hiding it? There's a lot of questions there, and a resourceful or lucky adventurer might stumble on or dig up a little hint of this, and may want to peel back that veneer just a little bit more and see what's hiding underneath.
The Radiant Citadel is but one horny Starfleet captain away from going to shit and being exposed for what it is.
I hope there's no one green there.
From the sounds of it, there probably is, because
there might be.
It's quite a diverse population that resides there. And initially, yes, it could be quite boring. Much like the first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation. But a clever DM could expose some things gradually to a party that digs a little bit more than they should, and you could have a great deal of fun. But if you don't have the time for such thing, fortunately, they give you like a dozen adventures in here.
I think
13 total? Oh, 14.
14.
Does levels from 1 to 14. So there's actually 13 adventures. The first one is for levels 1 and 2. So if you want to get new people into the game, that's the place to start.
I like these anthology books. I rarely use. I can't remember the last time I used a retail adventure, but if I were to commit to something, these anthologies, these are the way to go, I think, for me.
I think it's somewhat timely that you just got done a whole series of quick tips on the ethereal planes.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, the Crystal Citadel, Radiant Citadel, resides in one of those ethereal planes.
Yep, and by clever design, Bill, by clever design. My insider over at Wizards of the Coast had leaked out the information. I said it's time to do a series on the planes.
Well, thank goodness you have resources at your disposal like that.
Yeah, that's actually a lie.
I was about to say, he just woke up. I said, I need a cup of coffee after that dream.
It just happened that way. I wish I was so prepared, but a happy accident.
We'll take it.
Yeah.
So what do we think so far? I think they give a little bit of knowledge on the different parts of the map. That is setting on page 7. So there's a couple little highlight points out there, and they go through them right off the bat, what you're looking for. Then they go into the diplomacy, the governances, the law enforcement, the lifestyle, and then some of the groups that are running this whole thing. So the groups of the Citadel.
It gives a nice bit of information, not too much for you to kind of describe the backdrop for these adventures. And it's got, it almost has a Discworld kind of.
Yeah, Discworld, Hollow World, one of those where it's a closed society, even though it
Terry
isn't.
Pratchett.
Yeah, it gives you that feel of a closed society.
And I could be way off in this, but I do like that it's got a Terry Pratchett feel to me, because I would be running these kind of adventures in an almost like comedic beer and pretzels kind of way, something even the heavier stuff. I think you could have a lot of fun with just a beer and pretzels sort of campaign running through these different adventures. And it takes you could make an entire campaign out of this too, which is a nice
absolutely
a nice thing, because it does, as Lou said, takes you all the way up to level 14
and beyond if you want to press it, because by then hopefully you've spun a few of your own yarns and worked a couple of details of your own to add to it, and you could take it above and beyond from there, because being in the ethereal, you literally have access to the universe. So who knows what outside influences are going to come in, or how you're going to get, or influence anything around you, because it basically acts like a lighthouse in the ethereal plane. You can see it from from great distances on the plane. So it acts almost like a lighthouse, which you can draw in who knows what.
Yeah, it's the artwork in this. It's got a flavor that I think fits the whole Radiant Citadel thing, like a high fantasy sort of artwork from the 80s or 90s wouldn't work well here, but this kind of art speaks to what I imagine the vibe of the Radiant Citadel would be for my particular campaign.
Well, I think the artwork's a little bit different than what we've seen in some of the other books.
Yes.
And each they're not just giving you a profile picture. Well, there's a few in there, but there's a lot of like full-blown half-page scenes here that were a little bit more prevalent than what you were seeing in some of the other books. And I do like it because it gives you a little bit more flavor of what's going on.
Yeah, the one gripe I do have with the artwork is the artwork looks like it was plucked from the real world, and I don't know why. There's like a Day of the Dead sort of depiction, what looks like a Central American, I don't know, farmer or whatever holding a chicken. It's it looks representative of our world, and I don't know, for me that's kind of like kicks me out of the immersion of the game. I live in our world, and I use D&D to escape it.
I don't know, the picture of the like 20-foot long shrimp in the restaurant. It looks not necessarily everyday worldish.
I like the picture on page 12.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Wakanda a little bit when
Yeah.
King T'Challa's is visiting the afterlife.
Yep.
But like both Bill and Scott said, I think all these adventures are good. And to add to what Bill and Scott said, you can actually take pieces of these and put them into your campaign when you don't have anything prepared.
Yeah, and you should do that. You should definitely utilize, if you're not going to run these retail adventures as they are, part them out. Pluck encounters out and kind of stick them into your campaign where you think they'll fit. You're going to want to make some notes, of course, but and try not to make it seem like they're shoehorning into your campaign, but definitely feel free to use those. I think this would be a nice kind of, I don't know, maybe like city of operations.
Perfectly said, yeah.
For a party that's going to be traveling in a kind of what's the campaign setting I'm thinking? Spelljammer, certainly. And the other one. Why am I not?
Which other one? There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, but it's I could see the books in my head.
Why don't you look over there? There's one of those over there.
May take too long to look through it. There's a lot of different campaign settings that it's going to allow you to jump from world to world, ethereal plane to ethereal plane.
He's looking it up.
Portals, things like that. Yeah, yes.
Yep.
So, yeah, like I said earlier, the
Planescape.
Planescape. There you go.
This is what happens when you get old.
Like I said at the beginning, it says how you can see it even on the ethereal plane. The bright stands out as a bastion of hope, and you can see it from a long, long distance away, as well as a bunch of several other larger gems that circle and move around the actual citadel itself. So it acts as a lighthouse.
Let's take a moment to talk about our sponsor.
You're a new DM who wants to jump behind the screen. Maybe you've been volunteered by your gaming group, but aren't quite ready. You've been watching people play games online or on podcasts, and you're thinking to yourself, where do they come up with all that descriptive narrative? There's no way I can do that. Well, don't worry. We've got a solution for you. What if I were to tell you that I can put a team of professional writers alongside you at your desk while you're prepping your game? Sounds pretty good, huh? With Describe, we can do just that. These narratives vividly describe monsters, places, spells, people, you name it. It's there. And there are more than 6,000 of these easy to search up, copy, and pastable, beautifully written narratives right at your fingertips. Confidently read these narratives aloud in your campaign and impress noob and veteran gamer alike. And the best thing about it is the library of narratives is constantly growing, and it's affordable. Describe has graciously provided us with a discount for our listeners. Head on over to describe.com/DMD. That's DSCRYB.com/DMD. Use the code DMD at checkout to try Describe for 2 weeks for free. Links will be in the show notes.
And now, back to the show.
Yeah,
So,
in
yeah,
the
so
ethereal
that-
plane, it's
In ethereal plane. So that would be a perfect jumping point for someone to keep coming back, or a base of operations, like you said, to keep coming back to.
and even if you're not going to adventure in this book per se, utilize any of these cool little anthology adventures, you still, I think, you have enough to, after reading the book, utilize the Radiant Citadel as a base of operations type of place for your adventuring party, and maybe dip your toes into one of these little anthologies here and there on a night where maybe you don't have everybody at your table. There's always that one person that seems to be missing every now and again, and you can jump into one of these little anthologies, probably bang it out in a night or two of gaming, and still have something.
Well, you just keep it on the books, and all right, make your characters for it. Keep your character sheets. Give me a copy. Tuck the copies in the book itself, and then if something happens, or you weren't here last time, like I said, we're in the middle of summer right now, so vacations are one of those things that pops up on a regular basis. Illnesses, and then work schedule changes. You get a bunch of those things all together, and all of a sudden your table of 6 is down to 2 or 3 real fast.
Yeah, these are.
This is perfect to pull this out. Okay, everyone, let's whip a character together. We're going to jump on the Planescape rule set, and let's go with that. Tuck the characters in there. Game Master can always make a couple NPCs or whip a character up himself, not necessarily for himself, for the next time around when, all right, these are the characters available. Pick one, because you might have 3 completely different people the next time around.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the beauty of something like this, is that you don't have to have your entire table worth of people to play in these. Actually, it's a great filler kind of thing for your gaming table when people aren't there, as opposed to switching games.
Right.
In rule sets, and or coming up with different characters on the fly for whatever reason, or someone having a wing it kind of in the big chair. These are great, and I'm happy to see the Room of Varax is back. One of my favorite species of badgers.
What page?
105. It's almost got like a honey badger look to it. The Arumvarax, you don't give a shit.
Yeah.
What, you remember? You have to remember the Arumvarax. It's been around since the 80s.
I don't.
You don't?
No.
Shame on you, Lewis.
I was just thinking that should have been fighting.
Or at least riding.
Or attempting to.
Attempting to.
One of the things I like that they started doing when they do these books is they give you more than just like the basic monster stats. They'll usually throw stats in for different types of a particular monster.
Different types or different levels.
Yeah.
You'll have your juvenile, your adult, your venerable, or something along those lines.
And that's something we had in second edition back in the old days, is particularly with dragons.
Yeah.
But you'd have with hobgoblins, you'd have the warrior, you would have the chieftain or whatever have you. You'd have all these different levels.
Yep. Now it would be called CR ratings.
Yes.
Same difference.
Yeah. They were hit dice back in those days.
Hit dice. Yeah, I don't know. It seems to have this almost Mayan / African kind of feel to the whole book.
I was listening to Jeremy Crawford, and he was saying that this was given to their writers from all various places around the world, so we can get a fantasy vision of some of their beliefs and history.
Oh, that's cool.
So I thought that may be not totally correct, but that's what it was supposed to be like. So there's a bunch of different writers from different backgrounds or places around the world where it depicts, because there's some that look like they were, like you said, Aztec or Mayan.
Yep.
There was some here that looked like they were down from, we'll say, Mexico, or some from Africa, all around different places.
The East.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I saw that in here
that's kind of nice to see, because for the longest time, D&D was kind of like Eurocentric
Yes.
and monochromatic.
Yep.
And it is nice to have some representation, some diversity.
I think that was the word he actually used. Inclusion, diversity, and representation. All not in that order, but throughout that whole. I think it was like a 15-minute YouTube thing. That's what he talked about.
And that's always a good thing because it attracts more people, because when you can relate to something in some way, it usually will draw an individual in.
Well, I also like to, for those of us that have gone through that very, well, for lack of a better term, vanilla kind of mindset, it's nice to see different stuff from what has influences from different parts of the world.
Exactly.
As someone like myself, I'm always interested in architecture, especially ancient architecture. You know, Egyptian and Mayan and Mesopotamian, and it just I'm all, you know, I one on my bucket list is still going to Petra, to see the temple in Petra. So to be able to see a lot of that stuff, at least vaguely represented here, is actually really, really intriguing for me, because I was like, wow, that's where I'm seeing these flavors of Aztec and Mayan,
Middle Eastern,
Middle Eastern, and the South American, the Central America. There's a lot of Central American influence here too, which is cool, and I think it's a long time coming without having to just write one campaign setting for the desert and one for the jungle and one for here and one for there, to blend them all together. You're in an area that's prone to see people from all different walks of life and planes of existence. Yeah. It makes sense to have a representation here that those particular people would be concentrated and drawn to. So they would populate the area because it reminds them of where they came from.
Yep.
And they would bring their beliefs and everything along with them.
Yeah, which would be kind of cool, painting the picture of the city streets as you move into an area that, is maybe populated by a totally different culture. So over the course of many years, even though they may have been assimilated into, the greater culture there of the Radiant Citadel, they have their areas where the majority of their people tend to settle into, and like you said, their architecture begins to pop up, their food offerings are there, language.
Well, they're still part of the overall culture, but you have areas where they're going to celebrate their ancestry and their heritage.
Yeah, like Chinatown, Little Italy, back when immigration was hopping back in the old days.
I remember it well.
I like what they also do is when you go through each of your adventures, they give you a pronunciation of some of the names.
Yeah.
But then they tell you for the settings. So, like, I'm looking at Buried Dynasty on 186, and you can use this through the Radiant Citadel, the Forgotten Realms, or Mystara. Those are some of the examples it gives. So it's more than just one place.
Right. So they make suggestions of where you can pluck stuff out and put it into your existing campaign setting, which is nice because then it would fit perfectly.
And I would definitely plunder from multiple campaign settings.
Oh, yeah.
To populate a place like this, like the Oriental Adventures campaign setting, or Al-Qadim, even some of the Hollow World stuff, even though that kind of falls under Mystara.
Mm-hmm.
Not just Forgotten Realms, Kryn. I would imagine that Kender in droves would be showing up, to like a giant gem-like shard floating in the ethereal plane. Who wouldn't want to try to pocket some of that?
Right. Well, there's crystals everywhere, so you get one of those races that like shiny, and it, obviously you have this massive continent size, crystal that everything's built around. There's pieces and shards and hints and materials of crystal everywhere. I think they would quickly be overcome with so much stuff trying to be able to carry it. They'd still try,
they'd hoard as much as they possibly could.
Yeah, so far, from everything I've seen through this book, I like it. They did it well.
I do too. I'm not a big fan of retail adventures,
So we hear.
but I own them all. And I am a big fan of these anthologies. I really, really, really like anything anthology that has like bite-sized kind of anything, anthology sci-fi stories, anthology adventures in D&D. It's definitely, it's like enjoying a fun-sized Snickers. Where the full-size one will get you a bellyache.
I was going to say,
right.
you're a big guy. Isn't that just a full size for you?
Shots fired.
Well, Lou's been so nice up to this point. I thought you might start to feel needy.
No.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not at all.
Okay. I'll just.
So what do you think? Is it worth it? We got this for like $28 a copy because I got it on Amazon because we don't have we do actually have a friendly neighborhood gaming store. I've just never been there.
I've been there a couple times.
Yeah.
They say, where's Scott? I'm like, I don't know.
He's on Amazon ordering Bill's book.
No, they don't say that.
But yeah, $28, not bad for a hardcover book. $50 probably if you're shopping at
A retail store.
a retail store, which
Yeah, that's what it says on the back of the book. $49.95.
if you can do it. I know I'm a hypocrite saying that because I never get out to Springfield
That's a long drive.
to like whatever the name of this Hobbies and Friends or something.
Games and Friends.
Games and Friends.
And there's another one. I just forget the name of it. It's right down. It's on Cooley and Allen.
But I like it. I think it's worth it.
I like it too.
I do too.
I think they did a really nice job. I like as Lou mentioned, the inclusion of a number of different cultures, and they're blended well, but not so much where they can't work together. And I do like the way they have a soft touch on it, where you can go deeper if you want. If you want to, really press that, you can, but it doesn't do so in the book itself.
Yeah.
So I think it's blended well. I like the whole idea of it's basically an ethereal plane port city.
Yeah.
I like it too. And also, I think it gives us a taste of what's to come. Because as we know, there's really nothing written for Dragonlance in 5e.
Right.
But one of the settings in the Sins of Our Elders is in Dragonlance.
Ooh, little hints.
Yep. So they might be building towards that.
I think so.
Dragonlance, Spelljammer. We've mentioned a couple of times where we've seen hints of Spelljammer already.
That's August 22nd, I believe.
Yep. So we know that's on its way. We've seen that coming. So, yeah, maybe Dragonlance would be next.
Yeah, or else why would it be listed
else
as
would
one
be
of
in
the
it?
settings?
Right. So, yeah, I'll give it 2 thumbs up and say it's worth the investment.
I give it a thumb and 3/4.
Thumb and 3/4?
Yeah.
Don't want to commit a full thumb?
Well,
Ever since that shop accident in high school.
well, there's that. But I don't see some players picking this up because it's a DM's book, more or less.
Yeah.
Unless you're a collector, which you should be.
Yep. Because as a player, someday,
You'll be running.
hopefully, you'll be running and you can try, something? I need some stuff. Oh, that's right. I had this book on the shelf that I haven't been able to use.
So with that said, it'll be 2 thumbs.
There you go.
How about you, Scott?
I like it.
We don't hear that often either.
No, I do. And the only gripe I have is that I want my fantasy to look like fantasy. I don't want a lot of representation of the real world in it. But I totally get what they're trying to do and am on board with it because I think D&D is really for everybody, not just white neckbeards,
Old-timey folk.
So that is cool, and I like that kind of like after you mentioned the like that shared cultural perspective that came in. I think that's a really neat thing. So yeah, both my thumbs.
And that's Journey Through the Radiant Citadel. We'll see you next time in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.